If you want your Porsche Boxster temp and fan control switches to go from this to this, stay tuned. Talking about the 987.1 heater and temperature control or fan control and heater switches. This also affects other models too, but you can see there the coating on those two switches is coming off quite prematurely. Even though this is an older car, it's really happened to a number of these Boxsters and 911s of this era. So I'm going to go ahead and replace those switches with some aftermarket switches that I got from, I believe, AliExpress for quite a reasonable price, around $22 Canadian or so. These are the replacement switches that I got, quite reasonably priced. I'm pretty sure that the coating will be a lot better than the original switches, which it wouldn't be too hard to do. Anyway, so these are a direct replacement type switch, and hope that it works out. So there are two nuts or two screws that are approximately here on either side, holding the this carpet panel in. These are really well hidden. I believe they're T25s. There we go, finally. It's quite a bit longer than I expected, that screw. So, that really well hidden. Really well hidden. Anyway, they were T30s, so we don't really need to unplug the accessory 12-volt source, so we just leave that off to the side. Now, there are also, I'm not sure whether I'm recording this or not, but move the camera just a little bit. There are two screws here and here, and they are not T30s. So there are two T20s holding this side panel in. There's one. There's two. Okay. So the next thing is to carefully pull back this panel without breaking any of the, there's three locating tabs. There's actually, move this a little bit. There's three locating clips, one to about there, and they're plastic, so they're a little bit vulnerable. So gotta be careful pulling this straight back as much as possible, and then we do the same thing on the other side. So this is where I attempt to pull this panel out, straight out. Alright, so let's see if we broke the clip or not. No, looks like we didn't. Did not break the clip, so that's at least one bonus. So now, basically, we have to do the same thing on the other side. So, here we go. So now with both left and right panels removed, I have to say that the driver's side panel, which is this one, I didn't break any of the clips, but it was like really tough to get out. I did have to leverage it a little bit with a pry bar, but at least so far nothing broken. So next thing, on to pulling the head out, which is up next. So pulling this unit out is supposed to be straightforward. I didn't say that. So there are two spring clips, if I can only find them. Right here. Yeah. So right here, and then on the other side. Yeah. So So these two spring clips push in, and if you had a third hand, it would be handy to pull this part out, straight out. And we do one side at a time. Okay, so one side, this side, and then the unit comes straight out. We just disconnect the cable modules. There's a little latch on each cable, and you can basically wobble them out like so. Basically, you can't mix these up. So now the suspected damaged unit is out and ready to work on. I'm going to take it over to the bench now. So the first thing to do on this panel is to remove this 4 T6 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4 all around the perimeter. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I always like to keep a little container for the screws separate, so those ones go there. So this panel, this front panel should come right off. Look carefully out because I know there's a ribbon cable in there. There you can see the ribbon cable. And without taking anything too much apart, I know there's before I know that there's 9 of these screws holding the circuit board to the front face. So we're going to take those off. By the way, one video I saw said they took this fan off, which you don't need to. So don't worry about the fan. So we're getting really close now. So there's 9 of these T6 screws holding the circuit board to the panel. So I think that's all of them now. Okay, so now we can just set aside this entire subassembly over here. What we've got is this rubber gasket which needs to come off. Now really, you don't need to worry about the orientation of it. It can only go back on one way, but we just flip it over there for now. So now we're really close to, apparently I needed some tweezers that I forgot to get. So I removed the temperature switch, the bad one. It was a little bit tougher. It's tougher to get out because of the fact, I'm not sure you can see it or not, but on the original ones there's 4 little extra retaining notches that help hold it in place, although it doesn't seem it's really necessary, but those make it really difficult to push out because they're resting on a ridge. And but anyway, so you have to use a little bit extra force to push this out at the same time as using a pair of tweezers to separate the retaining plastic that's holding it goes into these square notches. So at any rate, and then you can push down on the 2 activating pins, which actually is what determines the up-down temperature. So up, or I should say it'll be down, and this will be up, and the same on the other side. More fan blower here, less fan blower there. So anyway, so I'm going to do the fan side now. Not sure, I may not have enough battery. I'm going to try I should have some extra knowledge because of the fact that I've just done the one side. The idea of the tweezers is that it'll separate both of these sides at the same time. You want to be careful you don't break the black plastic while you're separating these. I'm going to flip it around. This is never quite as easy as it should be. Okay, so there's one side. They suggest, or somebody suggested, using 2 tiny screwdrivers. This should work exactly the same. So, okay, so there pried out the two sides of these retaining pieces without breaking them. And now I can basically, I'm going to push out on the pins, which should push the switch right out. See, this is the kind of, these little extra tangs, they're causing a problem. I push those out and push the pin backwards. It should open it up enough. Yeah, something happened. Something happened. So I have the defective fan switch out now. Again, like these little extra, 4 little extra tangs really are a pain to get the original ones out. But anyway, so a little bit of force, and then also it helps to activate the switch as you're pushing out on it. So anyway, so next thing up, don't forget to put the plungers back in. So the plungers go back in. This basically just snaps right in place now. The assembly is so much easier. So once that's in, like so, you got the action of the fan, up, down, temperature up, down. None of these other switches are affected, but so the next thing I'm going to do is to clean off the parts. There's always a little bit of residue. It seems like dust and dirt and maybe coffee and whatever gets into these nooks and crannies. So I'm going to do a bit of cleanup with alcohol, and then I'm also going to clean up the LCD screen. There's a little bit of dirt and debris around the edges of that. But the next thing is to start the reassembly process. So that's it. This is the finished product. The 2 switches replaced. Had a little bit of an issue with the LCD panel. It kind of fell apart as I was cleaning it. But hopefully got it in correctly, so we'll have to do a test. So this is after the installation of the replacement switches for the temperature and the fan buttons, which were extremely ugly before. The coating just scraped off very easily. So this replacement worked out fairly well. Just to do a check, we're gonna. So here's the. You can see the LCD shows up. The buttons work. The fan works. These buttons, these new switches work just fine, and they don't have that rubberized coating which the original ones had, so there's no chance of it flaking off. They're actually just kind of painted like all the rest of the buttons. So this is basically was a good installation. Take your time, there should be really no issues if you follow the steps quite patiently. Yeah, but like I said, there were a few hiccups here and there, mostly my own errors, let's say. Just a couple of words of caution. Be careful of the LCD screen when you take the head apart. It's kind of just sitting in there loose. And just a couple other things. Remember to put the rubber gasket. I call it a gasket, but it's really the contact membrane. Yeah, that's probably about it. Just be patient and take your time with it. Everything should work out fine.